All right. Hello from the North Woods, my friend.
Hello from the North Woods, and happy Independence Day, folks. July 4th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast, episode 697.
Yes, it is.
Are you barbecuing today?
Yeah, gonna barbecue. Gonna get a nice float in the lake and maybe sit in sauna.
Yeah, you look forward to some late night fireworks that wake you up and make your dogs go crazy. Can't wait.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do much of that. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Hopefully not.
Yeah. The July 4th is when people have the least amount of respect for animals and people who go to bed on time. Like, you know what? Why can't we just start fireworks? You can still see them. That's 6 o'clock.
You can't do that, man. It's got to be dark.
Come on, why not?
Come on, suck it up, old man.
I mean, no, seriously though, it's like a whole thing. And then we got dogs who aren't. I mean, listen. I get it. It's a rough time for the dogs, and yeah, you got to do it tonight. I'll give you that. I'll suck it up. So as best I can. Hope you're all having a wonderful July 4th. You've all got the day off, but not us. We're here. We're settled in. We're going to give you the best podcast we can today. If it's your first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Times are very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we'll use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and to drive the discussion today. We also frequently utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, we'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, very solid resource in a sport that is way overcomplicated and oftentimes incredibly confusing. It is a solid space to get clear, concise information from veterans, experienced athletes that have been around the block, willing to lend a helping hand, like we are today, by doing a Q&A at least once a month, or in situations like these, more than once a month, where we'll take questions from the group, the community, do our best to answer as many as we can. That's it. No sponsors, no ads, one agenda. And that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Look, man, we're not the biggest podcast in the world, but we've been getting a lot of emails lately about, people thanking us for helping them all get through some of their races, their first races or whatever. And we really appreciate that. We're,
you nailed it. I totally forgot to mention that. I was going to mention it in the last podcast. We have we are definitely not the biggest, which is totally fine by me. But yeah, we always love hearing from our listeners on positive experiences or things you've taken from, or a message you've taken, or a training principle you've taken and applied to your life or your training and had a positive result. That's really, why we do what we do, to both benefit you and I's friendship and our relationship, and work through things and talk through things, and then hopefully help you, do the same. Right. That's why we try to, we're the podcast for the people.
Podcast for the people, man. Yeah.
The podcast for the normal Joe, right? We're not professional athletes who want to talk to you about, lactate testing 4 times a week and how we train 35 hours because we're single, no relationship, and totally funded. We're just like you, the average, everyday average Joe with life stress, relationship stress, professional stress, and being on this planet stress, and then trying to weave in a hobby that's demanding, that creates stress. So we do our best to help you navigate that. And we love it. So again, happy to be here, even on July 4th, and hopefully give you something to do while you're avoiding, that 14-year-old cousin you have who's already setting off whippersnappers and MAs at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Everybody's got one of those.
Yeah, they're out there. They're all over.
This is our part 2 from the giant Q&A we had, and there's no way we're going to get through all these, but we'll definitely address as many as we can again, and filling those out as best we can. From Katie Marie. Can you give any insight into finding the right triathlon kit? A recommendation for different distances in men and women, sleeveless and sleeves, 2-piece versus 1-piece, or your personal favorite brands? I can do that. I don't know that you or I need to be asked for anything that has to do with clothing for covering yourself.
Hoodies and flip flops.
You're a lot better than I am. But yeah, that's not my thing.
I can bring.
I am my personal. For most people, from an aerodynamic standpoint, sleeves will always be faster, unless you get the wrong size and there's a bunch of wrinkles in it. Then you're kind of negating the benefit of having sleeves because it is more aerodynamic. But you also get a benefit from the compression, and then the biggest benefit I think you get is just from UV and sun protection from the hot races, is not having that part of your shoulder and your back just scorched earth, kind of like the podcast logo. My two favorite brands are Zoot, and if they were ever cheap enough to do again for a team, Castelli. Some of my favorite gear I've ever worn is from Castelli. But currently our Zoot is our I guess apparel manufacturer of choice. But I mean, listen, I'm not sure anyone's ever lost a race, at least, and there's no age group where I think ever that's lost a race because their apparel choice. I would just pick whatever is comfortable, period. Whatever's the most comfortable is also probably the fastest for you. Now, I'm not, would you ever catch me, wearing a cycling shirt, a cycling jersey and baggy, stuff for the cycling portion? No. Would you ever catch me putting on a tank top and, scalloped run shorts for the run portion? No. Because usually the more movement, the more options for chafing. So I like to go with comfy and snug versus over tight or over loose.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm with you on the Castelli, but I really like our team kits. The Zoot kits are really comfortable. I personally just can't quite do the sleeves yet, even though I learned a really hard lesson. But I try to. I just think I try to get a little tan going before the race next time. I mean, that race where I burned my back out was in May. I just wasn't ready for it. But I just I don't know. Sleeves to me are a little too tight, mainly on the run. I can't get used to that.
Weaken up and shrink your biceps a little bit. That won't be such a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just saying, line up on the push-ups. Next question, Susan Ott. You have a series on how to not suck at swimming. How about how to not suck at running? For those of us who do and are injury prone, thanks. Also, please address the people who are terrified of clipping in, which I personally think is a bit much. We have quite a few episodes of how to not suck at running. I have a lot of thoughts on athletes who always consider themselves injury prone. I kind of put a lot of them in the same bucket as, athletes that, have had an injury in the past but can't get any faster or are too old. A lot of that is, prone is usually from consistent bad habits, whether it's running too much, running too hard, or running wrong is how you get injured. Or the same people that, tell you they hate running, they're doing it wrong. Right? They hop out, and they go for a 30-minute run, and they don't know and they don't believe that running, easier is a way to get faster. They go out and they run zone 4, and then they're just demolished. And then they run over the hate it. Yeah, everyone would hate it. I'd hate it. It should be enjoyable. And so I think athletes that are consistently injury prone, you shouldn't be consistently injury prone. I'm just going to say it. You shouldn't be consistently or injury prone. Now, again, that could be like once every 2 years or once every fourth, but you and I both work, and most coaches, and a lot of athletes who have come from, surgeries or off, having to be off from running from constant niggles and told them they can't ever run, they can't ever do this, are running again, right? You have to take time to fix things, but the biggest thing is to figure out why you're injury prone. Are you running too hard too often? Are your mechanics terrible? Or is your shoe choice terrible? What do you, are you accident prone? Is your bone density compromise, like you shouldn't be injury prone. You should figure out why you're getting injured and then stop doing that. A lot of athletes that continue to get stress fractures, think over and over and over again. It's like, because you're obviously coming back too fast, right? Same goes for, you run too hard and then you get hurt, right? There's a lot of things you can do to not be as injured, but we do have quite a few podcasts on how to not suck at running. I think like 3 or 4 actually. And then in terms of addressing people who are terrified of clipping in, yeah, I don't know that I can I can send a message to those people. I think that's just kind of people have irrational fears. That's just life. People have irrational fears. You're going to handle your bike better and be more powerful if you're clipped in. That's a fact.
It's a fact.
So it's just a fact. You will be
period
more erratic and not be able to handle your bike as well because you don't have, concreted kind of like contact points. So not if you're losing power without pressure, you don't have as much control over your bike. That's a fact. So you're just choosing to, it's like the illusion of safety is what you're giving yourself. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know that I can have a message them, but it seems like it really bothers you, Susan. So you know what?
Look,
let it go. Let it go. People make their own choices. Let it go.
Yeah, look, I've got a kind of a general thought on that. I mean, I think a lot of people get into triathlon later in their lives and they weren't big cyclists or swimmers or maybe even runners growing up. And all of a sudden you wonder why your body's like fighting back or why you're not good or fast or comfortable clipping in or dealing with hills or all these kind of things. It's because you haven't done it enough. That's just what I think. I mean, I was talking to one of the guys I coached yesterday about hills, and I was just like, just ride them a lot, and clipping in. I mean, everyone has it, at the beginning. If you haven't done it, you're going to fall over. That's just how it goes. I mean, I think that's how you learn. You kind of cruise up to the group and you're like, forget to clip out, and then you knock everybody over like dominoes, and it's like a tough lesson. But I just think you got to do it more and more and more. I mean, the more comfortable you get with things, the more confident you are with them. And it's everything in this sport. I mean, you want to get better at swimming, but you never swam growing up. You got to swim a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot more than you're doing, most likely, by far.
More than you're doing. I love it. David Volk, what makes for a great race experience? The kind where you can't wait to go do that exact event again. Covered it a couple weeks ago in our review of Des Moines. Next one from your girl, Emily Horvath. Let's hear another episode where you guys write and ask questions to each other. Those are fun. And then we had a couple agreed on those. I'll come out of the gate and ask you one.
All right.
If there is one race that you could only do for the rest of your life and you couldn't do another one, and it can't be various, it has to be one race, so one distance for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One distance?
Yep, one distance. So like one race. Like, so you can't say, Chattanooga and then alternate between Chattanooga, St. Point 3 or the full. It has to be one race, one distance for the rest of your life. What would it be?
It's going to be Wisconsin for me, man.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, what? The full, yeah.
Oof. Rest of your life?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what you've been doing the last 3 years anyway.
Well,
so.
I mean, for me, it's the biggest puzzle.
I
feel like there's room to be gained in there. I don't feel like I've come close. I feel like I've come pretty close to my potential and a half. But I don't think I've hit it in the full. I mean, and it's getting harder, obviously, but I just still believe that there's, you talk about racing smart, and I talk about getting more time in the saddle and different things of that nature that I think I can still pull together. I like 70.3, but I don't know. I've always been intrigued by the full, and I think I always will be.
I like that. Yeah. It's a great reason too. Like, in that, I've always been a huge fan, just because I think, again, varieties for the week, but is doing the same race over and over and over and over and over again. Cause it's the best way to, it's the same with workouts, right? You do a different workout with different intervals and different intensity and different structure and, different progressions every single week. You're never going to do them right. right? But you do the same one over and over and over again. You figure it out. You figure out pacing. You figure out strategy. You figure out, how to do it best, how to prepare for it, what gears to use, when to lay it down, when to not, what gearing choice goes best with this, this effort and this cadence, this watt range. Like that's the perfecting it, right? And so I'm the same reason about with races is it gives you a chance to figure out the puzzle, right? Because triathletes are obsessed with the puzzle, right? They're never satisfied. Even if they put together a puzzle, it's like, all right, let's put it together next time. Let's do it faster. Right. Or let's do it blindfolded, or let's do it backwards. Like people love challenges, but they love predictability, right? But they love the challenge of trying to figure out how they can squeak out another 3 or 4 minutes off the bike course, another 5 or 6 off the run course. So that's an excellent answer.
No, I like what you're saying there about variety too, because I love that sort of same workout routine and everything like that. I got to ask you the same question, but I also had another thought on this. So why don't you answer that question, and I'll come up with another angle.
If I do one race for the rest of my life, what would it be?
Louisville.
Well, it's no. Yeah, you stole words out of my mouth. If it's still around, it would be Ironman, because I feel the exact same about that race. I feel like that race was meant for me, and that's why I was so disgruntled and still am, that they discontinued, because I'd be the first person to sign up if it ever came back. I mean, I have that same feeling about that race, that I never really nailed it. Like my best result ever was that my first year being sober, and I only been back, training for, I don't know, whatever, in 6, 7 months, and went out and had, it was top 100 overall and just had a really good day, but it was so hot. But I wasn't like even more close to full fitness for obvious reasons. But yeah, it was that race where I just feel like it's so predictably unpredictable, right? With the weather back then, how hot it was, and the course is it's challenging, it's fair, there's just a lot. I loved that race, and I loved like you said, I like knowing that there's I always feel like there's got to be a better way. That's how my brain works anyway. But I think stuff like that is really great for athletes to kind of think through and look at things as like, yeah, there's got to be a better way, and that's what keeps me engaged as an athlete, is trying to figure out there's got to be a better way to train for that race, but there's got to be a better way to execute this better. So yeah, for 100% for me. The other one would probably be, I haven't done it, but because I don't know that I'm a full distance mode guy anymore, but I still have that feeling about Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I still, because I've done it and I did it well, but not that well. But it's one of those courses that I know pretty well. We train a lot of athletes, and it's very similar to Louisville in a lot of ways. It's just technical, and you got to get it right. It's not all about fitness, right? For those courses, the swimsuits and yeah, and I love the city. You know how I am about that city. It's a special place for me. But yeah, probably the same. What was your other one?
Well, no, I was going to suggest like a once in a while podcast where we ask each other questions, but they're kind of like dumb questions.
Dumb questions.
Just to see what your reaction would be.
Okay. I'm always up for that.
Yeah. Should I, when I run into Camp Randall this year, should I change my shoes for turf? To get the ball.
So what I'm hearing is we should do an episode that sounds very much like an Ironman race event Facebook page.
That's kind of maybe where I got the idea. Yeah. Would that save me time if I had turf shoes on the turf?
Oh yeah, it probably could. Robbie Simone, what's with the beef between local? I've seen this in multiple cities now. Tri communities, whether it's who has the best cheering station at an Ironman or open water swim support, running people over in the lake. If we're trying to grow the sport, why are some more focused on bashing others? I get friendly, Riley, but sometimes just way too much freaking drama. I think we kind of covered this in our last podcast, but triathletes and drama are always used in the same sentence because most triathletes are so overdramatic about everything. So that's not really surprising. But I also knowing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of athletes, I can't confidently use the word beef with any of them, because have you seen most triathletes? You can't have beef and actually feel confident you're going to win whatever quote unquote beef you have, right? I would actually love to see like a skit where you had, rivalry tri clubs snapping their way into transition, about to have a beef and settle and put their differences aside, for the rest of their lives. I mean, what would that look like? I mean, seriously, like look at us all.
I know what it looks like. It would look like
speaking out of your draws. It's just like
it would look like that anchor brawl in Anchorman. Remember that scene? Totally out of place, man.
I mean, it really is. Like it's like because now most triathletes look like, we got our flat bill hats that you could put a 4x4 on top of and balance it for probably 200 miles. And now, we wear these super tight kits that are already awkward enough. We wear helmets that look like, we look so weird. We've got shoes that look like the 1984 like New Balances that you mall walked in, because now we got stack heights that are like 9 inches high. And then we got sunglasses, right, from Oakley that look like, what Michael J. Fox was rocking in Back to the Future 2. It's like giant. I'm like, how do you even see out of those? And we wear them like 24/7. I mean, it was really like, I can't. That's why, again, like I can't take. Most triathletes need to run into Biff, right, to get some sense knocked into them. But yeah, I don't see any beef between locals, and I honestly can't like even envision a scenario where I would take any of that seriously.
Really? Yeah. That's what I meant, man. I was talking about the Hatfields and McCoys, man. There's just a little tension there. It's funny. I kind of just observed that. Like I used to do a lot of filming of races and stuff, and I'd be walking around and I'd see kind of like competing tri groups, kind of, two guys talking, and I'd see them kind of looking around, make sure nobody was noticed they were hanging.
Yeah, I frankly just don't give a fuck enough about stuff like that. We haven't had an F-bomb in a while, so that's a good one. Nick Parker, I'd love an episode about diet. Maybe touch on a few of the best practices of some of your top athletes, what they like to eat, how they plan their week of meals, what do they eat before and after the workouts. Could you touch on your own thoughts on some of the meal planning philosophies out there, and maybe even a nutritionist join one of the you want us to start like a whole new podcast series, Nick? Jesus. I think that's one of the things, could you guys start a meal delivery service? That'd be great. Thanks. I think that's one thing that a lot of us triathletes know we can do better, but there's a lot of noise in the world about eating, and you wouldn't have to be super committed to one, as I know you guys would not endorse one eating practice over another. But it'd be good to hear some general discussion on the topic. I'll touch on that.
All right.
I'll bite,
okay.
Literally. We won't touch on feeling. We'll have Dr. Alex Harrison on that here in a couple of weeks. But, most athletes, and this goes for training and eating and fueling, would be so much better off by just not being an idiot. That's the fact. Like, don't do stupid things in training. Don't eat stupid things when you're in your day-to-day life. Like, is it okay? Simple rule of thumb for me: 80% of the time I eat pretty clean. 20% of the time I eat what I want, and I keep it simple. Like my day-to-day, and I'm this about me. I'm a creature of habit, so I find something that works, that I like, that I feel like is working well for me, and I just don't change it. So like for breakfast right now, the last 3 weeks. For me, and again, I'm not like, I'm pretty healthy. Like, I'm not, and I eat pretty clean. But so like this, so every morning I'll have 2 eggs over medium, a smoothie, banana, mixed berries, almond milk, almond butter with some protein powder. And then I may or may not have 1 or 2 like little like muffins to go with it. For a snack before lunch, I'll have like some almonds and an apple. And then for lunch, I'll have like a piece of grilled chicken with a salad or some kind of maybe rice with it, depending on the day and if I'm actually doing a lot or not doing a lot. Afternoon snack is either like Greek yogurt with some mixed berries or Today it's like pistachios and dates. And then for dinner, it's just, it's something, again, lean meats or a steak and like a sweet potato or have something just generally healthy. I try to stay away from unless I need it for the next morning. I try to get most of my carbohydrates in, like my heavier stuff in like breakfast and lunch, because that's when I work out as well. Because I've also noticed that like when I consume a lot more carbohydrates at dinner, I don't sleep as well. Because I get that like insulin spike, because there's usually, sugar associated with that. And that's honestly, I could eat that every single day easily, period. Again, I think most athletes don't know what to eat, just like fueling. They don't know what to eat, so they either eat less or eat too much. And they just become averse to either one, right? Same things with fueling. They think they don't need enough, so they don't take any, so they underfuel, or they take in too much. But I am not a fan of being a staunch supporter of extremes. I don't think they're sustainable. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This is a true story. Okay. I worked with an athlete who was vegan for 4 years,
mm-hmm.
and then went straight carnivore.
Okay.
Vegan, like staunch supporter of all things vegan, right? And then flipped after going to like some retreat and was now straight carnivore. And then obviously,
how's that going?
Immediately, we don't work together anymore.
Oh,
obviously, immediately felt the effects and increased. And like, again, I think extremes are just generally not ideal. Just be sensible. And I know that's like not as specific, and most people want specifics, but the point is to be thoughtful, right? And there's a practice called mindful eating as a practice, right? Where you're just mindful about what you eat. You look and see, this is it's about how much I need. This is like a topic that I even cover with Hayden. He's like, I want this. I'm like, so why don't we start with this? And then if you want more, you eat more. But there's no reason to put it all on your plate, because then you feel obligated to eat it all.
Mm-hmm.
So pick out what you think you want, start with that. And if you're still hungry when you're done, then go get more. But if you're not, you're done. Right. And that prevents you being wasteful, right? And having to throw a bunch of stuff away, and also just creating waste in your own body by overeating.
Yeah. So, varieties for the week is what you're telling me. So,
yeah.
For me, like, when I turn it, like I've been turning it up a little bit right now. So I'm like you, I try not to go drastic, because that screws everything up for me, or, like to try to correct everything and make it perfect. So you're 80-20 on the healthy. I'm probably 60-40 right now, but I need calories and things like that. So like really what I've been doing is I've been trying to lose a little weight. So what I do every morning is get up, have about, 12 ounces or 16 ounces of water. And then I go for a walk. And then I come back, and if I have, because I like to exercise in the afternoon, like early 2:00 or something like that usually, and then maybe something at night. But if I have a bigger day, I'll have like I don't know, like an English muffin with honey and bananas or something like that. And then I'll drink coffee, and then I'll drink a little more water, and then I'll work out, and then I'll eat after that. And I'm like, last night I had tacos and salsa chips, but during the day, I try to eat I'll try to eat like some eggs, or, just something cleaner and simple for me. But it's all over the board. I just kind of eat when I'm hungry now, but I'm working harder. So I'm just more concerned about having energy really at this point. And then I'll start dialing things in closer as I get, and cleaner, maybe to get to that 80-20, but I'm never 100. I can't do that, especially Ironman training.
It's my biggest thing, and again, like this is something I have to ask myself too, and something that I ask Hayden a lot too, is like, are you hungry, or are you bored?
Or thirsty?
Or thirsty. That's like one of America's like biggest pastimes. Is like you go to the pantry when you're bored.
Yeah, 100%.
You go hang around the kitchen with the refrigerator door when you're bored, right? You're not hungry, you're bored. Right. And so, or thirsty. Right. So I think that's,
I'm on that. If I feel hungry and I'm like, man, I don't know if I should be hungry if I'm bored or what. I'll always get a glass of water first and see how that sits. And if that kind of curbs it for a while. And also the one thing I want to just bring up, because I think it's just absolutely massively important to keeping, at least your discipline a little bit more in check, is getting good sleep. Because if you wake up behind the 8-ball, you're going to be eating like crap. It's just going to happen because you're looking for that sugar, man. You're looking for that energy, and it's just going to snowball. So, I mean, I'm a big napper, but because sometimes I don't get the sleep I need at night, but I'm always trying to get it. Like sometimes if I, in the afternoon, if I think I'm hungry and I'm just kind of tired, I don't eat. I'll just take a quick nap.
Crap in, crap out. I mean, that's generally, again, it's not rocket science. Next up, Jody Sanders. If there was ever a topic that was for you, it's this one.
Uh-oh.
How about, why is it so flipping difficult for people to tell on your left on the bike portion of a race?
I actually do that.
I know how you feel about on your left, but it's
no. I feel like I don't think it needs to be as loud as it is a lot of times, especially if I'm running.
Right.
That was the whole thing with me, is like sometimes I'd be running and just in this beautifully peaceful zone with a 10-foot wide bike path, and on the right shoulder, and somebody gets right in my ear and screams on your left. Because I like sometimes how you drift and you're in a real good meditative spot, and that just shakes me and gives me gray hairs on the spot.
There is a very, very easy way to tell people, walkers, runners, that you're coming, and that's to coast for a minute.
Yeah, that's what I do. And cough.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, cough or coast, right? If you're on like a greenway or rails to trails type place, always use you coast, because your spokes make a noise, right? Or your hub makes a noise. And they hear that and they move over. It's easy, versus hammering it and yelling out on your left, and then they jump to the right and they get tangled up in their Yorkie, and then they fall over and sprain their wrist. Now you're on e-dampers for the next 2 months and you're on the lookout. So don't do that. In a race, if you're coming back, if you're coming by at speed and you don't have a lot of room and the person seems pretty wiggly, then you always got to say it. Always. Because it's for both of your safety, right? And that's something that I always kind of look at, because depending on what wave you're in, if you're passing a ton of people, then if you have to say on your left every 2 seconds, then you're just gonna get over it, so you stop doing it. But if you are in a tight area or the person's real wiggly, if you gotta stay on your left. But then again, if you think about the person's wearing aero helmets who may or may not already be kind of hard of hearing with the wind going through, they're not even going to hear you, right? Or they're not even going to be paying attention enough to hear you. But if you're going past somebody who's doing what they should be, which is holding their line to the right of the road, they're in control of their bike, then a lot of times you don't even need to say it, because you're not expecting this sudden jerk to the left. Because honestly, if you yell out on your left to a person who's holding their line and riding solid and not veering off left or right, and you got plenty of room, yelling on your left might actually startle them to the point to where it actually now becomes more unsafe.
Yeah.
Because people are jerky on their bikes, especially triathletes.
Yeah.
On your left, and they jerk and flinch like they just saw a ghost going downstairs the pantry at midnight.
Yeah. There's like everything, there's extremes. We were riding this weekend and Emily was getting passed by a truck, and the thing was just, going out. But right when it got next to her, it just floored it. It was one of those loud muffler type things, and it really startled her. I tend to think that, I was thinking about that actually, as far as cars passing. This is a little sidebar, but there's people that just kind of find their way and just go around. And then there's people that just don't even think about it and blast past you at full gear. That's an extreme. And then there's people that sit back forever. It's like I keep waving them by. Just find your way. Go. That's too nice, or it's too nice or too mean. Just be right in the middle with it. Just use your head. It's sort of like downhills or a lot of times I'll scream on your left because shit just gets a little chaotic sometimes on those downhills. People get in the middle of the road. They don't want to be close to the shoulder, and you kind of move around. But if there's nothing, what's coming ahead of you too, if you got plenty of room. But I'll usually get a little louder going downhill, because if I'm coming up quick on somebody, that looks like they're on their brakes a little bit, you want to make sure that they know. But I'll give them plenty of, I don't do it right in their ear. It doesn't make any sense. You gotta try and scream ahead of time.
Agreed.
Okay. So
scream. Next question.
I don't have a problem with on your left. Just be sensible with it.
Yeah, exactly. Heather Butler, Training Peaks, CTL, which stands for chronic training load, fatigue, and fitness. Should we pay attention to those? How do those metrics impact adjustments and training plans? I've been using Training Peaks for 12 years.
Yeah.
Over 12 years. I don't look at it ever.
Ooh.
Never made in my entire life an adjustment based on the numbers from Training Peaks in their chronic training load, their acute training load, form, fitness, none of it. Because I find it useless. I find it utterly useless for a few reasons. One, because it's based on your zones, swim, bike, and run being totally relevant and totally accurate. The testing done right, your zone model you use to be correct, because that's how they determine your threshold. And most athletes have no idea how to test or what to test, and then how to even create zones to create an actual threshold. So most athletes are working off a model, a zone model, and a threshold that is inaccurate. That's a fact. Number two, they use their stress, right? Because they take threshold, right? And then they accumulate stress points based off intensity. And I think their model for that is horrific. And most coaches will tell you the exact same thing. So example, and I've said this a million times, but it obviously bears saying again, that what I hate about the fatigue and the form and the fitness, and again, all the training stress points is, I'll give you two examples. One, you're the athlete. You do a 50-minute run early in the morning, and that's it. And your stress is, let's say a 50-minute run gives you 50 points, 50 training stress points. Those points are what go in to help either create and undulate your form, fitness, chronic training, and all the numbers that you see. Let's also say, instead of doing the 50-minute run in the morning, you did an hour and a half threshold ride in the morning, and then in the evening did the same run, right? That same run would still get you 50 points. But you're going to be more tired, right? Because it's cumulative of what you've done over the course of the day. It doesn't take into account multiple workouts in a day. And then what it also doesn't take into account is the second portion here is a hour and 15-minute run in April. Or excuse me, let's say February, where it's 40, no dew point, no humidity, will get you 100 points, create 100 in training stress points. That same run you did in August at 1 p.m. in 100 degrees with high humidity and high dew point will get you also a 100. There's an athlete on the planet that will finish those two runs feeling exactly the same or exactly stressed the same. But that's how those things are calculated, and that's why I find them totally meaningless. Again, I'm never using, I tell athletes this all the time. Talking this to another coach the other day, I said a lot of the numbers, I hate the algorithm and the way they calculate things. But two, it's just because you see something doesn't mean it's necessary. Doesn't mean it's useful. A lot of it, a lot of charts and the things they offer in Training Peaks, they do, in my opinion, so you'll buy their premium and not their free version. But no, I find it useless, and I just told you why.
Yes, you did. Yeah. It's kind of like the Garmin popping off going, man, 4 points below satisfactory or whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, what? Crushing it right now. I don't know.
Screw off.
Yeah, man, I don't know, man. I'm big on creating space between my workouts and making sure that I'm paying attention. Like I try to, like you work out in the mornings, I work out in the afternoons. I don't typically try to work out at night and then do a morning because it's close to, like stuff like that. I mean, you get like extra days if you kind of play your workout timing too, so I just, it's so hard for that. I mean, how can you predict that? I just like hearing feedback. Like I really am starting to get wiped out. Okay. Day off, easy day, 2 days, easy, whatever. Like that kind of stuff. How do you know?
You don't. And that's why predicting it is just not advantageous.
Yeah. I don't,
All right.
I mean, with the
last question of the day.
The numbers, easy up. I mean, they're just trying to perfect everything, and
well, you can't. And then what it causes is more obsessive tendencies, which is already bad enough with triathletes in the first place. That's why you see so many overtraining and working at way too high of an intensity way too often. It's just it's a problem. From Dan, this will be our last question. How to handle a mid-season reset after a July A race going into a late season Ironman? Well, I'm going to give the same advice that I gave you in the very first year we were working together. So why don't you tell that story?
Take a week off. Is that the one?
Yeah, take a week off.
Yeah, do a choice week. Do whatever the hell you want. Don't do anything if you don't want to. Right in the middle of it. I never saw that coming. But it was great. I mean, that's the thing. You do a 70.3 solid week, solid block, I should say, and then you race hard, and then take some time for yourself. Figure it out, what you want to do. I mean, again, it goes back to what I was saying. I can't remember if it was this one or last one now, but you don't lose fitness that fast. Just keep moving and even rest more. I don't know.
I'm going to give you a great two things, and then one's going to be a great example of an athlete with almost perfect objectivity. One of the biggest reasons because again, the year is very long, but I always give athletes like a choice week after a 70.3 and a full. And it's not just because their body needs it, but because their mind needs it. Relax, unwind, and it's to keep their hunger in the right place. And sometimes it's not because you're trying to create hunger, it's because you're trying to keep it at bay. Because if they have a great race or a shitty race, all they want to do is get back to work on one, being better, or two, being even better than they were at the race they just did. And that's only sustainable for a certain amount of time. The other ones, again, like I told you in the very first year we did it, it's like also use that time to, especially if you're going to do a full, you're about to allocate extra time and energy towards training and away from the people that you impact on a daily basis. That's a great time. Go on vacation and put triathlon out of your mind, out of sight for at least a week, and prioritize those closest to you, because they'll remember that you're putting in the time. They're going to make a sacrifice for you to take the time away to do your training, no matter what distance it is. And that shows them that you recognize that and that their time is valuable and that you appreciate that. That's a great thing to do. But then I got an athlete, was just having this conversation with them via text today, is they have had already a long season. They raced Texas 70.3 in April, and then did a very short turnaround, did a block, did Ironman Tulsa. I mean, knocked out of the park, was on the podium, took 2 weeks off, took a week and a half off, did an Olympic, and then he's got on his schedule Ohio in July, and then his A race year being Wisconsin 70.3 in September. Well, before Ohio 70.3, he's got like a 11-day trip, I think, to Italy with his wife, and he's got a little bit of plantar fasciitis. And I was like, just don't run. And he said, yeah, you know what? And again, talk about perspective. He said, I'm not going to run at all unless I feel like I'm totally ready, because my priority right now is to be able to walk as much as I can in Italy and take that time with my wife to spend and actually enjoy my vacation and not be hurt. And if I have to postpone Ohio or defer Ohio, I'll do it. But I need the break and I need this vacation. Most triathletes, hey, so I'm going to have treadmill access on Thursday, Saturday, Monday while I'm in Italy. Can we squeeze in some extra sessions? No. You're in Italy. Go enjoy. I mean, it's like, go enjoy it. Plus, if you're walking 10 miles, I mean, like I tell people who tell me they want to work out while they're going to Disney, you're already working out, period. You're getting like 30,000 steps in a day in the sunlight, dealing with people and kids. You're going to be fried. If anything, if it's possible, don't go for a workout. Pick up a Mai Tai. Take care of yourself. I mean, it's just like, that's, again, like giving yourself a break, and the permission is something that athletes struggle mightily with, is giving them is allowing themselves permission to skip a workout, take a week off, not do anything. We have this exact, and it's like on a micro level, but I had this conversation with Hayden a couple weeks ago. I got home from the office, really long day, was going to play tennis that night, but also wanted to get in like an hour and 20-minute spin. I got home and he was on the couch, like watching a movie, and I just kind of like just plopped down because I was just exhausted, and I plopped down on the couch and lay with him for about 20 minutes. And we just kind of like laughed and joked around. I was like, all right. I was like, I got to get up, and I think I'm gonna try and sneak in a little bit of this ride. It's like, all right, so I get up and do an hour ride. Then I'm getting off, and I promised to take him somewhere before tennis. So I'm in a rush. And he said, why are you in a hurry? And I said, because I laid on the couch a little bit too long before I got my ride in. But I said, but it was worth it because you and I got to hang out for like 20 minutes, and I skipped 20 minutes of my ride. Those are like little micro decisions you can make that create the power to take off a day or a weekend or a week when you need it. Forcing yourself, and the guilt that you can feel is you're not on the road to commitment, you're on the road to burnout. And that's a fine line that people have, is they think they're showing commitment, but what they're really doing is they're lighting their match on the road to burnout.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you feel frazzled in life, you might need a day or two to get that shit together, because it's like, that your tax practitioner email is sitting in there, and you might want it. But it's like these little things that kind of just build on you. And I love that. Yeah. 20 minutes, cut it short, spend a little time with your kid.
Always ask yourself, am I lighting a match to fuel the fire, or am I lighting the match to fuel the burnout? And sometimes that just means not lighting a match in general. That's it. That's your July 4th episode. As always, we love you. We appreciate you listening, and appreciate your dedication and feedback, as always, to our podcast. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. There's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. You can click on our online store to support the podcast in the best way you can. So we don't do sponsors and ads. That is the best way to do it, is to purchase stuff from the online store. And you can also go to iTunes or your favorite podcast platform and give us a great review. It's a great way for people to find us. And as always, you can click on the coach tab and find the coach that's right for you if you're interested in coaching, or what that looks like with C26 for the remainder of the year or even next year. And then if you need anything from Mike, he is available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me specifically, C26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy, go enjoy and appreciate your freedom.
Oh, I will. Fireworks going off at 3 p.m. right on cue. See you, dude.
All right, see you.